Pride is based on a true story about a group of gay and lesbian activists in the 80s who decided to come together to raise money for the striking miners. And it's feel good, lovely comedy drama.
It's where Jessica and I first met each other
Yeah.
10 short
10
years
years.
ago, and a
Gosh.
love story was born. Did we have a read through? I don't think so. I don't think we did
Maybe
have.
not. Maybe we didn't.
Do you remember meeting me for the first time? And if not, why not?
I feel like it might have been that scene where we were all in Wales together. One of many. And it was the
The
big
Welsh scene.
Welsh scene, that one. Yeah. Oh no, I should have thought more. When did we first meet?
I
That's
don't
bad.
remember. I don't actually
Oh,
remember meeting you for the first
no,
time. I remember hearing
no.
that you had an amazing audition. That they,
But for my audition process was funny because I didn't know. Now we know all behind the scenes and things, but I only first got 2 scenes, I think.
oh,
And
right.
then yeah, I remember in the audition, they were talking Stephen and Matthew, Stephen who wrote it, Stephen Beresford, amazing, and Matthew Warchus. They said, the thing about Sian, the character I was auditioning for, is that she's a real woman, and I was like, oh, she is so real, and they were like, no, 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 she's real, like she exists, and I was like, oh right, no, 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 yeah, 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 because I'd only
That's so
read like two
amazing.
scenes,
Like,
and then
isn't
I
she
remember,
just?
isn't she just real? Oh, in here and in here, but yeah, so no, and then. When I read, and then I got sent the whole thing and was just obviously just fell in love with it.
We had
But
an
that,
amazing time.
we really did. I
Yeah.
can't believe 10 years. It was so
Yeah.
nice, lovely.
And really
And
unusual for a film to have so many characters in the same scene. We were just so chatty the whole time. That's what I really remember. Just loads of
yes,
actors there the whole time. There wasn't a lot of money because this was there were so many actors to be paid. There was no sense of, people going back to their trailers or anything like that. It was very that's what my long lasting memory of it. It's just that everybody was talking all the time and the ADs had
yeah.
to be like, shh,
Yeah. And
stop
also, like, if you
talking.
think about the cast, it was quite starry in terms of like,
Yeah,
Bill Nye, Imelda Staunton, Dominic
yeah,
West, Paddy Considine.
yeah.
But it never felt like any kind of stars were in it. Like
No,
nobody, I'm going back. Nobody
no,
felt like they were
no.
separate. All felt
Well, it would have
so
been a bit weird, and particularly because of the subject matter, if everyone was like,
yeah, leave me
"Where's
alone.
my
Don't
astrologist?"
yeah. Loads of people still come up to talk to me about Pride and how much
Me too.
they
Me too.
loved it. It just changed
Well, I
them all.
think for a film like that, the way we watch movies, you don't have to watch a movie in a movie theater. And I think for a film where people feel like they're in danger still in countries where it's still illegal to be gay, um, it's like a little
Yeah.
gift, And I think what's so wonderful about it is that it's a film that isn't about, it's about gay people, but it's not about their sexuality. It's about their humanity, and it's about what they did. And I think so many films can be kind of reductive or just talk incessantly about gay people's sexuality. And of course, there's a place for that. But it was lovely because it's about these people it's about solidarity, and it's so incredibly moving. I don't know anybody who doesn't have a little cry at the
Oh,
end. And I loved the character that of Gethin because I just finished. At that stage, I was doing a lot that was very Sherlock heavy at the time, and I was really interested in playing a kind of character that was a bit more humane. And Gethin is a very shy character. He doesn't speak a lot, but has a huge amount of pain, and he's somebody who's estranged from his family. And I just was very, very, very hungry to play that kind of part. So I was enormously invested in it right from the beginning. And I kind of knew that it was going to be special, but I don't think anything prepares you for the music in it is so important.
yeah.
And of course, you don't have that when you're reading a script. But that I just think all those, I just think magic happened. I think magic absolutely happened. Yeah.
I think it's maybe Andy in the American Office says something, and it's like in the final series, and he says, I wish that they told you when you were in the good old days.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's so nice. And I think that's one of those jobs when you go, I think we knew
Yeah.
though a bit.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think I
we
think we
knew a
sort
bit.
of did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Because
we had all that sort of. We went to the Toronto Film Festival.
yeah, and the
Had
South
a
Bank
couple of
Awards,
drinks there,
that,
Jess.
yeah. It was great fun.
We
But
did.
Stephen's an amazing storyteller, and he would tell so many, because obviously the research that went into the film, he met so many people. He met Sian, the character I
Yes.
play, and talked to her for hours. And I actually remember when I got the job, he'd said, "I'll put you in touch with Sian, who is was MP for Swansea East, and so her secretary got in touch. And when you book these conference calls, you have to put a limit on the time thing. So they put 3 hours because they were like, well, they'll not get that. Anyway, we got up to when they cut us off because we got to a 3 hour thing because she just took so many fascinating stories. And she's such an interesting person.
Amazing person.
Yeah.
Oh,
And she came out to Toronto with us, and loads
she
of the
is.
came,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
was so special.
Yeah.
And loads of them are in, I don't know if people know, but in that scene when we're
At the
marching
end.
across the bridge, there's loads of original LGSM members playing supporting artists behind us in that, and they're all
Yeah.
there as well.
Yeah. They're all in the background. They flag the banners.
But I think actually the real Jonathan is next to Dominic, I think. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's right. But yeah, so it's
Yeah.
so nice.
And we live in a kind of identity culture where everybody's like, I'm this and I'm that and you're that and we're this, and everybody's, talking about how, we're all sort of separate each other in a way. I think there's something a bit insidious about that in our culture at the moment. And of course, it starts out with these two communities that absolutely culturally are so dissimilar from each other, and then you realize that they have an awful lot in common and that they kind of need each other. And that beautiful thing that Stephen always said is that prejudice doesn't survive proximity, meaning that you can have a prejudice about somebody, but if you're proximate to somebody, if you're near somebody, that you go, well, that person is just annoying. It's not because of sexuality. You know what I mean? It's or you go see what they did, and he makes jokes that are so. I think it's the gags.
Yeah,
I
I think
think
it's
that's the reason.
but I also think it's the lack of sentimentality. I think in the wrong
Yes.
hands, that story could have been told in a way
Yeah.
that you just, they bring out the
Yeah. The
violins,
bland.
the
Yeah.
violins, and you just think, and he was so great, and Matthew as well, the director was
Yeah.
so good at cutting those moments. The perfect example is when they sing Bread and Roses, like it's cut by the husband's
Yeah.
stalking in,
Violence.
fighting like boom, and it's like it's not allowed to just get too much. So when those moments are earned, like when the coaches arrive, that is an earned moment that you
Yeah.
allow kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
sentimentality of it. But he's I think Stephen would be a great director actually, because I always remember there's a bit where, because I'm not a mum and I wasn't at the time either, and I walk past my two kids and it's a tiny little moment, they're plaiting Freddie Fox's hair. And I go, leave him alone, he's not a girl's world. And I've got these 2 pints and I'm bringing them to the group. And I think one of the first takes I did, I was like, you leave him alone, really like scruffling there. And he's like, you're a mum, you see them all the time. Like
Yeah.
you don't. And I was like,
Yeah.
you're
Be so
right.
nice to them.
Yeah, don't be nice. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was just
But I think
great.
that's Stephen's great gift as a writer, is that he's so full of heart, but he
Yeah.
portrays heart in a way um that's so realistic, in the sense that it's not all necessarily all huggy. The people can
Yeah.
be,
Oh, yeah,
eye
exactly.
rolly about the people that they love.
So many young people come up and say it helped them come out to their parents, because I
Mm.
think they would watch it with them and then feel able to say, I'm that as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's exactly what, as soon as you humanize a person or a people, I think it's much easier to say I'm also that. And I also think now pride is such a celebratory thing, but we've got to remember the shoulders we stand on, and the people who fought before we were able for it just to be a kind of fun party in London
Yeah.
or Brighton or wherever Pride goes on now. There's so many countries in the world that aren't able to have Pride events because obviously it's still illegal there. So there's like one step forward, 10 steps back, but also the fight of LGSM and the miners that they had in the 80s was a different kind of pride then. And because of them, it's now allowed to be much more of a celebration and less about the activism. Although I'm still sure it's hugely
Yeah.
political now, even now.
As they say, the war is never over. But yeah,
True.
I think that's so true. And like, what was so disgusting looking at the media at the time, the way um gay people were spoken about in the media was shocking. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I always say, that, of course parents would be suspicious or upset if their children came out to them, because what they were being fed by the media was that they were going to be diseased, and they were going to be, the way AIDS was
Even the
spoken
fact that
about.
those
Disgusting.
adverts were allowed on television,
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
absolutely baffling.
Absolutely disgusting, and the horrible way that gay people were spoken about. Of course, it breeds suspicion, and it just shows. I don't know. It shows what if our media is allowed to do that, then
Yeah.
it has terrible consequences.
But even I remember, I don't know if this is right, so if I'm wrong, then apologies. But I think I remember the DVD of Pride in certain countries didn't mention LGSM. So it said it's a group of minors. And you're like, well, sorry. They were like, oh, don't talk about the gay bits, you know.
Do you know, it's so strange. You know, actually, with all of us strangers, it was really strange, wonderful this year, because they used to do that kind of thing in
Mm.
with things that had sort of gay content, that would sort of pretend that they
Do
would sort of
room. Yeah.
two roommates. Like they try and sort of get away with it, or they wouldn't mention it in the thing. Like they sort of trick is sort of someone's going to buy a ticket into cinema. They're like, oh Jesus! And well, you bought the ticket now, you can't leave. But what was so wonderful, you know, seeing doing All of Us Strangers this year, was that they absolutely sold the romance
Yeah.
full, and that was
Yeah.
that was a wonderful, you know, 10 years on from having done another kind of landmark gay film. It was really nice to see how that changed. That people go, well, this is what we're going to do. There's an audience there. People aren't as scared to maybe go to the cinema, which a lot of the reasons, you know, people didn't
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah,
I
but
think
interesting to
7 years
see
on.
how long it took them to kind of, I suppose, what's the right word, sell it, or I'm sure they had a few struggles just distributing it, and
Mhm.
maybe like with the DVD cover having to be amended, maybe that's
Mm.
why, which is such a shame.
I think that's true. I think it's kind of developed this huge affection for it, and this huge kind of cult status, for want of a better word. But I think initially, you know, box office wise, it didn't match the affection and the that people had for it. It won like some awards, but you know, some people still don't know about the movie,
Oh, that's
and
crazy to me. I
and
think, yeah,
you know, I just think to watch the movie is to love the movie, and
yeah.
yeah, I really think that, and not just because Jessica's so brilliant in it. There are other people in it.
Yeah,
And
that
what
was
was your
nice.
favorite genre uh scene to film?
Oh yeah, what was my favorite scene to film? I actually really loved our scene in the hospital and then going outside with Dom. I think that was
Oh
just
yeah, it's gorgeous.
when he says you don't waste it, you know. It's so
Yeah, don't waste your,
yeah.
yeah,
And I used
yeah.
to love that because people would always ask Sian. They said, did that conversation really happen? You know, did they say, you know, you can be more than this? And she was like, and she loved saying it because she'd go, it didn't happen. It happened more than once. As in like everyone said to me. She's
Yeah,
so dramatic. Yeah.
yeah,
It's true,
dramatico.
'cause they always like you find your potential, you know, and I think she's such an
Yeah,
amazing
that was
woman. Yeah. What
amazing.
about yours? Do you remember what was about you? Oh, all of your
Well, there was a
wonderful.
scene that when I have to go back to see my parents, so that my character is estranged from his parents, I had to go back, and I knew I had this big pressure because I had to say the words "Hello, Mum,"
Yes.
and um, he hasn't seen his mum in 15 years, and I knew that I it was quite a private uh, ambition to be able to go. I know that I can't just be "Hello, Mum," and I had to
Oh God,
I don't know,
that's
just get that right. And
right. Yeah.
again, it was quite unusual to shoot that scene because it was just me on my own, and usually there was millions of us around. And I felt
Yeah.
like, oh God, this is my bit. I have to make this right. And and I knew Matthew's such a good director, and I think I did maybe only did one or two takes, and he was like, don't worry, it's okay. We have that. We have that."
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
sort of with Matthew, you just know he's not like a big gusher, but you can tell when
Yeah.
you've affected him a little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
was really glad to be able to honor that feeling that that a lot of gay people have, just to front it, but actually have a little wobble in your,
Wobble as well. I know. It's
you
so
know,
perfect.
people feel that, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah, everybody knows the absolute genius of Jess Gunning now.
Oh, stop.
Everybody knows it. It's so exciting because, I mean, a lot of people know already because she's been a sort of stalwart of our stage and screen for so many years. But like now, everybody knows how amazing and brilliant and beautiful she is. So it's so exciting, and the fact that we get to experience that together is just so magical, isn't it?
One of my favorite things to do, actually, which is a bit of a cheesy game that I play in my head, I think I've said this before to you, is that I love playing like a game of like Little Did We Know. I
Yeah, I
love
remember
going
you said
back
that.
to like a moment where, like, even on the set of Pride, say, little did we know that
I know.
we'd still be talking about it 10 years on.
Yeah, I know.
We would be friends. I would know both your sisters as well
I
as I
know.
do.
I know.
Like, it's actually just so
It's
lovely. I just
gorgeous.
love it so
And
much.
there's a
If you
big
think about it
group,
too much, I'm gonna
a
cry,
group
but
of
yeah,
friends, and
the big
Stephen
group
and
of
everybody.
friends, you know, yeah, everyone is
Yeah,
just so, and it's
yeah,
bonded us all together. Little did we know.
yeah.
When I read the script for it, I did think it was one of the best things I'd ever read. It reminded me actually of how I felt after I'd read Pride, because you sometimes get those things through and you just think, oh my gosh. And because both of them are based on true stories as well, and just so cleverly structured. With Baby Reindeer, we were lucky to get all 7 scripts given to us for the audition process, which is quite rare in television, because so often you get sent like 1 or 2 and
Absolutely,
they
get
go,
a page.
and here's an
Yeah,
outline of how else we're going to write it. And you're like, oh,
yeah,
so to have
yeah.
all of that and have that amazing way that Richard ended the series with Obama, it's like, oh, this is just amazing.
I
I'm
remember
so
you. I remember you during the audition process. It was you did a few auditions, am I right?
oh, like about 5, yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I
Probably
was trying to be
4
diplomatic there.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just had a real feeling. I remember you had a real feeling
Yeah.
that you were like, I understand this
I know
character.
how to, yeah, definitely. I remember talking to you and our friend Ben, and I was literally like, I know
Yeah.
how to do this. And funnily enough, actually, thinking of Pride, Nadia Stacey, who was the hair and makeup designer on Pride, one of the notes we got from the audition process was that I wasn't looking like I was 42 enough. So
Yeah.
I rang Nadia and I was like, if you were designing this, how would you do it? And she was like, well, why don't I just do it? Why don't I put a wig on you
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that.
and you tape yourself and send that through? But it's funny because when Richard tells the story, he says, and do you remember when you got that wig from that joke shop? And I'm like, no, it was like a
An Oscar-winning makeup artist.
about it actually. Yeah, but the extent I went to, but I've never done that before, really. I know, obviously, for you with Ripley, you probably didn't. Did you audition for Ripley? You probably didn't need to. They
No,
probably.
it came out of the blue, and I was like, "What the hell
Wow.
is?" And
Yeah.
like you, I got the whole 8 episodes in one, and I read them on a transatlantic flight,
Oh my
and I
gosh.
was like,
Wow.
"This is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really extraordinary writing." And
Have them in paper copy as well.
I got paper copies of them.
Okay, I
How do you?
imagine it's on an iPad, but then when you mind it, I was like, oh,
Maybe
you
it was. Maybe I'm slightly reimagining that. Like that's gonna
yeah, just go into the
8 scripts. Hello, I'm checking in, please.
hello.
Yeah, I probably read it online.
Yeah, yeah.
Writing my notes. But I
Yeah.
love it. I have to say, I like a hard copy of a script. I don't know why.
I do. I really do. I think it's
Do
because
you?
of theatre. I think we like it to
Yeah.
have it there because it feels real then.
Do you know the radio? You know radio. You know when you do a
Oh,
radio play.
turn the place slow. Yeah, page
Do you
slowly.
know a little trip, a little tip for when they're obsessed when you do radio for people who don't know. You
Oh
you
yeah.
read it, but if you don't want to hear any paper noise, you scrunch up the page and then you open it up again, and it's kind
Yeah.
of rigid. So it's only the voice that one hears, never the paper.
Tips of the trade,
That's a
guys,
good one.
trade secrets. I think because the writing was so clear to me, and Richard's kind of creation of Martha as a character was so nuanced and complicated, and I just connected with her. I don't know why or how. I just was like, I just know how to do this a bit. Actually, not to be too cheesy, but Andrew played a massive part in terms of how I approached going into the part, because I remember we had a chat and I got the part, I got the job, and you were like, go for it now. It's making me emotional. And because there's a world where you could not phone, I would never have phoned it in, but there's a world where you can play it safe and you can
Mm,
go, okay, I know I can go here, and but I didn't, and not give much of yourself. But because
mm,
I fought for it, sometimes when you fight for it as well and you get it, you think, oh no, now I've got to do it. And it makes you
yeah,
scared enough to
yeah,
properly delve in. But
yeah.
actually, after you gave me that chat, I really did properly kind of go, I've got to,
You did,
and
darling.
that final voicemail she leaves, I always just connected with her straight away
Oh
after
my
reading
God.
it, if ever I needed
I
to.
said that to you. I just find that just extra how moving that was just from your voice. It's just like, and actually, I think I found it so moving because it was obviously the character, but I could feel your own input into that, your
Yeah,
own
yeah,
passion in that. Can I ask
yeah,
you, like, I suppose because you're so different to the character, and I suppose I have it a little bit with Ripley. I have like, I think they're both characters that are very far away from who we are as people. Do you find that people are going, "Oh gosh, you're really different," when they meet you
a
because
little
you
bit.
are?
The thing that people find is that they all go, oh, I'm terrified of you. And I always find that
Yeah, yeah.
fascinating because I never saw her as terrifying, but then
Mm,
way, of course she is. Yeah, people are
mm,
always like, oh my gosh. But then again, my laugh is still quite similar, which is
mm.
maybe I should have thought about in hindsight. Because I went to see a comedy show the other week and my friend was like, don't find it too funny because people might, the comedian might be scared away, you know, me like the back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
What about you, Ripley? Did you know the character or did you kind of find him?
well, actually, what was weird about the character was that the thing that I had to discover was that the discovery is that there's some part of him that is actually kind of unknowable. And once I kind of knew that, and to go, well, there's a kind of blankness to that character that you can't excavate. And I think there are people in the world who are like that, who are just very far removed from that, just don't know themselves. And they go, and we do it ourselves. We go, I have no idea why I behaved like that. And we are a little bit of a mystery to ourselves. But I think he's an unreliable hero. And so part of it was just to sort of embrace the fact that there's some part of him that actually is just, there's a chasm sort of there a little bit. And that then became sort of enjoyable to play. But I found it difficult because and in a strange way, I know exactly when you say when someone says, "Oh, I find you really scary," like the murder parts of were only like it only took a little bit out of a year. It took a year to film that, and a lot of the scenes in it are kind of quite domestic, where it's a person who's traveling around or someone who's got like awkward in a social situation or is in a restaurant. Like it's not murder, 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 murder the whole time. And so I didn't find him really that scary or like feel like I had to do like when I was playing Moriarty, I felt like I had to do a lot of kind of stuff where I was like, I need to be really dark. But actually, I think the darkness of him is that he behaves in quite a impassive way at times when actually you should be completely active in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Like that he's it's
I
just
was going to ask you, obviously, because you're such a funny person, IRL. You know the bit where he doesn't the pen thing, like when he's complimented on the pen, and the time that guy doesn't compliment his pen. That in
yeah.
the script, or was that you? Like the slight annoyance of you being
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I love when you're like, oh, you didn't. Everyone else going, and you're like, oh, thank you. And this one
Say
guy
it.
say,
I actually can't quite remember what the answer to that is. I'd
no,
imagine
like,
me.
no, yeah,
I
who's
mean,
that?
such my own genius. What I mean,
I love
possibly.
that kind of like there's a sweetness to that of like I don't know
Mm.
why I found that actually the most
He's
human
quite a
bit
sweet character.
because it was like he was going, oh, he didn't say it was nice. That's why I like to have it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's a human being. No, and
Yeah.
with these people, with certain characters, where they call them monstrous. I always think that's quite tabloidy to call people call people monsters because
Yeah.
human beings do monstrous things, but they're nevertheless human beings, and that's our job is to kind of, in a way, or your first priority is to kind of protect the character that people might go, oh, that person is a psycho or that person is deranged,
Yeah.
whatever those things are. I just find them so incredibly helpful, and I think that's what was so beautiful about your portrayal of in Baby Reindeer was just how oh well, just like the way because that's the way you are in real life is because you're just so empathetic and kind, you know. Oh.